Hello, this is Mr. Reiner, and we'd like to go over our view of China, communism, government, and resources. So first of all, let's take a look at the map. So we have China right here. We have our Koreas, we have Japan, Taiwan, Philippines, Myanmar, Thailand, Laos, Vietnam, Cambodia, Malaysia, Singapore, and Indonesia. What's the largest country in East and Southeast Asia? Okay, it's China. So I hope you said China. There it is. It's gigantic. It's about the same size as the United States. And if we also take a look at this, what country would you say has the most resources, has the greatest access to resources, any resource in general? Okay, bigger countries have more area. China is the biggest country in East and Southeast Asia, so they have the most resources basically. And not to mention that, but they also do specifically have the most fossil fuels. Okay, so that includes coal, natural gas, oil, those kinds of things. China has the most of that. So remember that. China has the most fossil fuels of any country in East and Southeast Asia. All right. Also, what's the food that most people in this part of the world eat? It's the staple food for all of these countries in East and Southeast Asia. But what's the one grain that all pretty much of Southeast Asia and East Asia eats almost every day? The staple food of East and Southeast Asia is rice. And so that's the most widely grown crop as well. That's the thing that most farms are going to be dealing with. So we have China right here. We have our Koreas, we have Japan, Taiwan, the Philippines, Myanmar, Thailand, Laos, Vietnam, Cambodia, Malaysia, Singapore, and Indonesia in this unit. These countries here, we have China, also North Korea, Vietnam, and Laos are all communist countries. They're controlled by single party people. Even if they vote, they don't really have a choice in their elections because there's only one type of people who are allowed to run for office in those countries. Okay, they have what we call an unlimited style of government because there's only one choice. That one choice gets to do whatever they want. You see, and there's a cool little cute, what do you call it? A cartoon that I found that kind of shows you the difference between limited and unlimited governments. The good government is which one? Limited or unlimited? Which is better? So limited government is better because the government is limited, whereas the unlimited government is bad, or it's worse because the government has unlimited power. Okay, they can do whatever they want and nobody's going to say anything about it because they're the only ones in power. So this one here says, talking about the limited government, being president is hard work. And if I want to stay president, I have to keep the people happy too. In other words, we have a choice whenever we go and vote. So because we vote, people have to make sure they make everybody happy. Otherwise, it won't get voted in. The pros, the citizens choose the president or any of the leaders. The cons, the ruler might rule in his own interest. Okay, but then we just won't vote for them anymore. Wow, I'm really glad he got elected as president. He's really nice. Okay, a limited government is a type of government that doesn't have complete power or control, right? The unlimited government has unlimited power and they can do whatever they want, like they do in communist China, because they don't have freedom. They can't do what they want there. In fact, a lot of people starve to death in North Korea, even still today. So this says, get to work now, under breath, or I'll just have you executed. So in China and North Korea especially, if people don't do what the government wants them to do, then they disappear. Yeah, you know what that means? They get probably killed, or they get sent to some underground prison or something like that that we don't know about because they disappear. They literally will wipe these people off the map like they never existed. Pros, laws are almost never broken. So maybe there's less crime, maybe, depends on how you define crime. Who's defining the crime though? Oh yeah, the one government that we have that no one gets to decide anything about the country for themselves. The rulers usually aren't very nice. You have to do what Xi Jinping says in China, or you might go to prison. They have labor camps there for people that they don't like just because they look different or they might have a different religion that they don't like. In fact, I don't think any religions are okay in China. They don't support religion. They don't want anyone to have freedom of religion there because they want the religion to be the government. They want communism to be your religion. Why should I listen to you anymore? You're a horrible ruler. A limited government is a type of government that has complete power or control, like China. Okay, China is not a free country. North Korea is not a free country. Vietnam, Laos are not free countries. In fact, neither is Myanmar, even though they're not communist. And Cambodia as well. They have very few rights, like we learned about when we watched about the true cost. People make very low wages, and the government, pushes down the protests and saying you can't protest to ask for more money because they want people to work like slaves, basically. Okay. Other countries around here: Philippines, Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, Singapore, Brunei, and also Japan and South Korea and Taiwan. They're in a much better situation. So it's kind of like 50-50 in East and Southeast Asia. All right, next, we want to talk about some of these evil dictators. So I got this article of the 15 worst dictators of the 20th century. Now, this is on your test. Obviously, we are reviewing the content of East and Southeast Asia for your test, which is tomorrow. So what do we need to know? Well, there's at least one person from this list who's going to be on the test. Do you know who's going to be on the test? And do you know what number this person is? Vladimir Lenin. We learned about V.I. Lenin. Okay, he was an evil dictator that converted Russia into socialism from their czar and their feudalist monarchy. But he killed something like 20 million people in the process. He said a bunch of stuff that made people trust him. And then whenever he became in power, all he did was just kill people who didn't agree with him and things like that. Then we have Saddam Hussein, another one we did learn about, and all the horrible things that he did to people he didn't like. And, oh, look, yeah, before we had communism in Russia, we also had an evil king or czar of Russia who just let his people starve. He didn't care if they starved or not. Oh, look, another one from Russia, Joseph Stalin, one of the worst humans ever to walk this planet, killed something like 60 million people, okay? And he was the leader of a communist government. Communism is bad, if you haven't figured that out yet. Adolf Hitler, we've learned about him as well, killed something like 11 to, I forget, I think maybe the number might have been higher than that, but the Holocaust itself, Adolf Hitler is responsible for the death of approximately 11 million people, all right? But number one, Mao Zedong, probably the worst person ever to live. I mean, that's subjective, I guess, but he did kill approximately 80 million people because of him. 80 million people died roughly. And you can see that smirk on his face, but he knows what he's doing. He knew what he was doing. Okay. About what we learned in my class, we learned 50 million people were starved to death under his policies. He knew very well that the people of China, especially the poor people and working in fields out in the countryside, were dying of starvation. But yet he took the food that they worked hard to grow and he sold it to other countries to make money. And in fact, a lot of the food that was in the warehouses that they had taken from the farmers, they just let rot in the warehouses. They didn't even give it out. They just let it go bad. And still these people starved to death. Okay. You might ask, well, why do we learn about such terrible people? Why do we learn about these evil dictators? Do we want to be like them and kill millions of people? No, of course not. We learn about them to learn about the mistakes, the things that led to them getting in power, so that we don't let that happen anymore anywhere in the planet, including our own country, right? And the other reason why is because if anyone ever talks about these people, like Mao Zedong in particular, you will know that they were not good people and that it's good to stay away from whatever it is they're talking about. Or if you see this face, you know that this was an evil person, that he killed millions and millions of people, okay? 80 million people, I think we did the math in one of my classes. It would take, if you counted one person that he killed, right, every second without stopping, not even time to eat or go to sleep or anything like that, and you kept counting, it would take you a year and a half of nonstop counting to count all of the people that this man, this horrible man, killed. Okay. Now you could do that with all of these other people. And you know what else is scary? All these people lived within about the last 120 years. Okay. So just within about 100 or so years, we've had all these evil people who have killed millions and millions and millions of people all combined. That's the kind of world that we have. And we don't have to keep it that way, right? We are the change we want to see in the world. So it's up to you guys to change the world and make it a better place. It's up to all of us. And the other thing, talking about Mao Zedong, whenever he came into power, you might ask, well, how did such an evil person come into power? There was a lot of Western influence coming into China. There were a lot of colonies starting to pop up. Japan eventually invaded and did all these things. And so the Chinese people, they didn't like that. They were angry. The Chinese people were angry that there were other people coming into their country and taking over and changing things. They didn't like the change that people coming in was doing to their country. And so what they did was they said, hey, we need a new government. And that fueled a revolution. So there was kind of this dual fighting going on. There were these two sides that were trying to take over the country, kind of like good and evil. And unfortunately, evil won by telling lies. And that really connects to the same kind of point that we talked about with South Asia over here, which was that trade between different countries can have a serious impact on the lives of people living in those countries. The trade between Europe through England, Germany, the United States, Japan, Portugal, and other countries was bringing this Western influence in one way or another into China. And this interaction between two different cultures caused a clash of cultures. In fact, the name of our class, sixth grade, World Cultures, right? And so the big lesson to be learned here is that when cultures come together, just as they did in India and other places, unfortunately, there is a clash there. Some people don't get along, right? And that can cause war, that can cause massive changes in the country, okay? And the lesson to be learned is that even if there are people that come in from other countries, even if we have interaction of cultures, it's not an excuse to hurt people one way or the other. Just because you might have a different opinion on something, right? Because you might do something a little bit different than somebody else, so you might eat a different food than somebody else. The solution is peace. Solution is mutual understanding, to understand each other, understand that it's okay to be different, and learn from each other and take the best parts of each other and make a better planet, make a better world. Okay. So, we're all in this together, just like the song says, right? We're all in this together, and we all need to think about that as a global community. All right. If you have any questions, let your teacher know, and good luck on your test. Bye-bye.